We're getting warmer. These lawsuits are coming together. There are a lot of fake news headlines out there right now saying that the Pennsylvania situation is over. It is not. It is alive and well. The headlines are wrong. I was on the phone today with Professor Alan Dershowitz, some of the litigants, the Trump campaign. This thing is going forward. Yes, the Supreme Court denied an injunction, but that does not mean the case is not on the docket. We also have momentum from the Texas situation. We'll tell you about that in a moment. All right, you know, the media really want you to think that this stuff is hard to understand, and they even haven't really even tried to help us understand it. But today, I went there. I brushed up on my Schoolhouse Rock.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm
You remember this stuff? It was fantastic. All right. The part on the constitutional amendment, and it does get a little bit tricky, but I think I broke it down, at least the Pennsylvania case, and let's talk about that. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has the oldest state constitution in the country, one of them. It's been around for a long, long time. And two fine gentlemen, Sean Parnell, who was a candidate for Congress, and Mike Kelly, who was a congressman who was recently reelected, filed suit. They said what happened on Election Day was unconstitutional, at least in Pennsylvania. Now, let's go through it. Pennsylvania's Constitution. As I mentioned, it is one of the oldest in the country, and it spells out very clearly how voting is to be conducted. All right, there are two options in the oldest, one of the oldest constitutions in the country. Number one, you can do it in person or absentee with an excuse. Pennsylvania Constitution, two options, in person or absentee with an excuse. Now, the Constitution of Pennsylvania also has some measures that if you want to change the Constitution, you got to do certain things. You got to have, let me go here, sorry about this, Tim Russert, 2 sessions consecutively held. You've got to have the proposed change in every single newspaper in the country. I'm sorry, in the state of Pennsylvania. Every county, you must have an ad indicating to voters that this is what we're thinking about. Finally, the voters have to vote on it in a referendum type situation, okay? My handwriting is so terrible now, I should have quit while I was ahead. 2 sessions, it's got to be in the newspaper, and finally on the ballot, basically a referendum for all the voters. So they didn't do any of that. They passed a law, Act 177, that said you don't need an excuse. You can be absent for any reason. You don't even have to tell us. Just go ahead and vote. Now, that's a problem. According to the litigants and according to a lot of observers, they have not gotten their fair shake in the media, to be sure. And remember, this injunction that was not granted, it does not mean their case is not over. You can't just change the way people vote in Pennsylvania. You got to go to the state constitution. That's what they're maintaining. It makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. And people in the know, people like Alan Dershowitz says, yeah, this is possibly the Trump campaign's strongest case. We also had this today. The state attorney general of Texas announced that he is suing, let's see, 4 states here: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Let's see, he is alleging that these states exploited the COVID-19 pandemic to justify ignoring federal and state election laws and unlawfully enacting last-minute changes, thus skewing the results of the 2020 election. He's suing 4 states. And by the way, a whole slew of states have just joined that lawsuit: Arkansas, Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi, South Carolina, South Dakota, Louisiana. And here's the great thing. When you are a state and you sue another state or states, guess what? It goes right to the Supreme Court. You don't have to work through the lower courts. It goes right to the very, very top. There's momentum here. Things are happening. The mainstream media have done all of us a disservice by not exploring these issues adequately. And back in the spring, when people started talking about mail-in voting, there were a few warning signs that there could be big-time problems down the road. Washington State, they've been doing mail-in voting for a long time. They actually know how to do it. They actually know it's pretty complex, and you can't just snap your fingers and make it happen. NBC News actually did a pretty decent report on this way back before it all got politicized.
Expanding vote at home is not a simple thing. It may sound simple, it may seem simple to the voter, but it is not so simple if you're administering the election, correct?
That is absolutely correct. It's a disservice to our voters to just throw it out. Oh, yeah, we can just flip a switch and everybody can vote by mail.
From your perspective, we're already behind.
We were behind 3 months ago when we started having this conversation.
That's important. That's the elections coordinator in Washington State. Mail-in voting is complex, and too many states just jammed it through. Many of us believe they did it for political reasons, that it was easy to manipulate. And I've pointed this out before. Somebody who was very enthusiastic about shutting down this country for COVID seemed to sense immediately the political benefits for Democrats if that were to happen. Rahm Emanuel, in this moment on the Stephanopoulos weekly show, look at him, take it full. He's smiling. I'm not going to play all the sound, but he's talking about how awful it will be if we shut down the country, and he's getting a big kick out of it out of the same time, right? George Orwell would call that a face crime, okay? Democrats in the know were very excited about shutting down this country. They knew the political benefits ahead of time. All right, some might say I'm gaslighting. You ever hear the word gaslighting? Liberals say it all the time. You're gaslighting, you're gaslighting, gaslighting. For the longest time, I did not know what gaslighting meant. But they do accuse people of doing it all the time.
The President of the United States is gaslighting you.
Gaslighting. For all of the gaslighting that Trump has done.
This is a guy who was gaslighting his voters for the last 4.5 years.
He's, again, trying to gaslight everybody.
Okay, normal people don't go around saying the word gaslight. They just don't. And I looked it up a few times, and I still... Anyway, I finally saw where it all came from. There's a movie called Gaslight, Ingrid Bergman from the mid-40s. So here's the deal. There's a guy, husband and wife. The husband is named Gregory, by the way, and he's trying to drive his wife crazy. And he does that by, he makes her think she's losing her mind by, he'll set up certain things. Like he gave her a piece of jewelry and then he stole it back. Secretly, he took it back and then he's like, well, where's your jewelry? And then she can't find it. And she starts to panic and she starts to think that she's losing her mind. Here's that scene, actually.
Oh, Gregory, I can't find it.
What?
I missed it when we were in the tower. I must turn everything out. I know it was here. I can't understand it. I couldn't have lost it. It must be here.
I'm sure it's there.
It's not.
Oh, Paula, didn't I tell you? How did you come to lose it?
How did you come to lose it? How did you come to think that you won Georgia with all that support on the ground? That's Gregory, and he knows what he's up to, and I think he represents a lot of the Democrat media and certain Republican establishment right there. It's actually a pretty good movie, Gaslight. You can check it out. Again, the left, they're always accusing us of doing it, but you know who does it the most? Joe Biden. Big time. Yeah, he's not totally out of it. I think he knows what he's up to when he's doing it. And something else I noticed about his campaign announcement, we showed you this last night where he makes that outright lie about Donald Trump. There's something else that he says in it that's kind of disturbing, and I think he reveals that, yeah, he just might cheat in this election.
We are in the battle for the soul of this nation. I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all he embraces as an aberrant moment in time. But if we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation. who we are. And I cannot stand by and watch that happen.
You see, when you're so caught up in your own righteousness and you're so caught up that the other guy is the devil, it looks to me like right there, he's saying they'll do whatever it takes to take this country back to their side. Something interesting about that. Maybe you disagree, but I don't know. I think Joe is signaling in a way that we're just not going to let this happen, and we'll do whatever it takes. Meanwhile, remember this guy who had the nervous breakdown last week, one of those Georgia state officials who's now running the recount?
I'm going to do my best to keep it together because it has all gone too far. All of it. Joe DeGenova today asked for Chris Krebs, a patriot who ran CISA, to be shot.
Joe DeGenova was being sarcastic. This dramatic scene, it's all staged. Maybe you knew this last week. I just found out about it. This guy's a never Trumper. All kinds of social media posts over the years from him, Gabe Sterling, now a senior official in Georgia, railing on Trump. Here's from Facebook. 4 years ago, April 2016, the largest gender gap was in 1996 when Dole lost women to Clinton by 11 points. Right now, Trump is losing women to Hillary by 23 points. There is no way that deficit can be fixed. This guy really knows politics, huh? Trump cannot win, therefore he should not be the GOP nominee. Never Trump. Hashtag never Trump. Another one from earlier that year. Tomorrow is an important day here in Georgia. I remind you again, regardless of whoever your candidate is, to stop Trump. You need to vote for Marco Rubio. He is the closest to Trump in the polls here. This must be about stopping Trump. Now, because he had that little meltdown, Sterling is the hero, or was for a few minutes, with the mainstream media. They never told you about that moment. I find that irresponsible. And something tells me that Sterling and a lot of those folks in senior positions down there in Georgia can't be trusted. I think he really relished delivering this message, and he delivered it way too prematurely.
Mr. President, it looks like you likely lost the state of Georgia. We're investigating. There's always a possibility. I get it. And you have the rights to go through the courts.
I get it. You're a never Trumper, and you shouldn't conduct yourself like that in public. Wow. Said it all online. Donald Trump, let's face it. Look, we love him, but there are people who hate him with a passion. Certain Republicans, too. You know, they envy him. They really do. Here's a guy, runs for office, first time out, billionaire, and wins. This guy's been going up the slippery pole of politics in Georgia his whole life, and Donald Trump just sweeps in. He's got his own plane. Decades ago, he had his own plane. He had a helicopter. He lived like a president a long, long, long time ago. And I put this on social media the other day, and some people thought I was crazy, but here's my theory. Donald Trump got used to the big life a very, very long time ago, when he was still in his 30s. So that made him, in a weird way, more prepared for the presidency than some of these other guys who worked their way up the ladder and then suddenly hit it big. They're living in the White House. They're flying on Air Force One. You know, Bob Hope, they asked him about running for president. He said, jokingly, I would never run for president. I wouldn't want to move into a smaller house. Donald Trump came with the status already. I think this convention narrator, it might be John Boyd, put it best.
He didn't do it for money or power or fame. He had all that. He did it because of his love for our great country.
Does that make sense? It sure does to me. Folks, this is not over. In some ways, it's just beginning.
Newsmax TV is now America's fastest growing cable news channel. We give you the real news you need. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Newsmax TV streams live on YouTube for free. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.